Welcome to Frankly Speaking Sports. My name is Larry Frank, and it's so great to have you on this Thursday evening. As you look behind me, I'd like to welcome all the fans from the Crew Life page that are watching tonight. Here's the beautiful, beautiful Crew Life banner. I decided to keep it up tonight, even though we're not doing a special edition for Crew Life tonight. They're my friends, and I want to make sure that you all know all about them. Make sure you join Crew Life. Make sure you join Frankly Speaking Sports. The more guests we have, the more interaction we have, the better time we have. For those of you who got to see the show last night with Ricky Reynolds, what a great show. What a great interview by Ricky Reynolds. And we're not going to cut you short this evening either. Let me tell you that. For all you USF Bull fans, I am so fired up tonight. You got to listen to who we have on tonight. Eric Handman. That's right, the Eric Handman, the public address announcer of the USF Bulls football and women's basketball teams, will be joining us here live right here on Frankly Speaking Sports in about 13 minutes from now. So that's an interview you definitely don't want to miss. For those of you who have previously had some issues with the Wi-Fi connecting, it was basically, we found out that it was only if you were listening on your phone, but in the event that you have trouble with the Wi-Fi, the replay will follow immediately after this, and there are no interruptions with Wi-Fi on the replay. We found that out. Had a huge amount. I couldn't believe the amount of listeners we had last night, and I'm hoping we equally have the same amount tonight. And I want to start off, we're going to be talking about Major League Baseball a little bit tonight. We're going to be talking some Buccaneer football after our interview with Eric Handman of USF. Obviously, we'll be talking some USF football, but before we get to Eric, we got about, like I said, 12, 13 minutes. A couple things I want everybody to know. When we are not doing the interview, we put a hotline phone number up there. It's 479-553-7008. That's for you to go ahead and interact with us. You can call us on the Frankly Speaking Sports hotline, and we will do our best to answer any questions you have, pertaining to the sports world. Also, leave a comment. Let me know you're here. Just say hello or ask a question. We want as many people involved as possible. Also, do me a favor. We have just an unbelievable show tonight. Do me a favor and take one moment. It'll take you all just 1 second. Just hit the share button down low on your timeline and share this with your friends so that they can enjoy this as well. And for those of you that are joining us from the USF Bulls Network tonight, I know we got a lot of Bulls fans on. We got that group on tonight as well. Want to let you all know that if you did not get the watch party that we put on your site, you could join Frankly Speaking Sports afterwards. It's free. We will approve you, and you'll get to watch the show as well. But let's go ahead before Eric come on. Let's talk about some Major League Baseball. 2020 season, as you all know, everybody is reporting by July 1st, which is a week from yesterday. So just want to let you all know that. The first games are going to be the 23rd and the 24th. Now, I reported a couple days ago it was going to be the 24th, but obviously TV has rights, and the TV networks wanted to showcase some games on the 23rd as well. So, but the 23rd and the 24th. And things you need to know about Major League Baseball starting back up. We already talked about this. 60 games, 40 against your division, and then 20 games in the same division as you in the National League. For Rays fans, that means they'll play 40 games against the AL East and then 20 games against the NL East, which is a hell of a tough schedule because everybody knows how tough the American League East is to begin with. Now you add the 20 games, which is basically 5 games versus the Nationals, the Mets, the Phillies, and the Marlins, and some tough games there. So we're really going to see how good this team, the Tampa Bay Rays, are. Now, understand this. The Rays have come out and made an announcement today that they are thinking about, surprise, surprise, Larry, like you didn't say this, they are going to allow fans in Tropicana Field. They're going to work it out where they can go ahead and space. Now, it has to be approved by the local authorities. Jane Castor, the mayor of Tampa, has said that she sees that this possibly can be done. With the spikes and everything going on out there right now in the state of Florida, I'm not sure how they're going to do it. But just so you know, Major League Baseball, the Tampa Bay Rays have announced they are going, as of now, to possibly allow fans at Tropicana Field when games are being held there this summer. Now, as far as the Major League Baseball schedules go, those will be out next week. But understand, they're going to have 3 weeks of spring training, mostly inter-squad games and workouts at their home cities. Don't expect them to be in the Florida area, wherever they're from. It's warm enough now where they can hold, spring training 2.0 there, and that's what they'll be doing. And then they have now allowed, I guess, the last week for them to hold 3 exhibition games with somebody in their near vicinity, so that way they can get ready for the season. Now, the playoffs in Major League Baseball will be the same. You're going to have 3 division winners in each league and 2 wild cards in each team. The designated hitter this year, even though it was voted down by the players, will be used by both leagues because of safety and health protocols. Okay, whatever you say. But the DH will be used. Everybody that knows me knows I'm not a big DH fan. I do root for the Rays, but I think baseball is a lot more strategic when you have the when you have the pitcher hitting in that 9th hole. It makes managers have to manage a lot more. And just my opinion, it's my preference. I grew up a National League fan. I'm an American League fan now. As long as I have baseball, I'm happy. Okay? Also, the trade deadline. We talked about this a little bit on Tuesday night. There will be a trade deadline. Usually the trade deadline for teams is July 31st, where all the big trades happen, where teams that are no longer in the playoffs run will be able to trade their players. It won't be July 31st, but it will be August 31st. Now listen to me, baseball fans. That means, team's going to play 1 month and have to make a decision whether they're in it or out of it. Do they want to trade players or not? And if a player is on your team by September 15th, they will be eligible for the playoffs in Major League Baseball. So basically everything's shifted up a month. You have the trade deadline now, August 31st. That's when big trades happen. And now, in order to be on the postseason roster, you have to be with that team by September 15th. Now, this is the way the roster works out. Somebody asked me yesterday, how many players are going to be on the team, Larry? Well, it's going to start off with 30 players for the first 2 weeks. Then after the first 2 weeks, it goes down to 28. And then after those 2 weeks, it goes down to 26 for the remainder of the season. So instead of a 25-man roster, it's going to be a 26-man roster. Now, the only rule that I told you I don't like the DH rule. This extra inning rule just nauseates me that baseball is going to implement. And I know it's a test. They're just doing it this year. They're saying for health reasons. I think that's a load of bull crap personally. I don't like it. I don't like a runner starting on second base to start an inning. That is not baseball. I don't care what anyone says. Well, Larry, it's been used in the minor leagues. Okay, that's the minor leagues. They don't play in the major leagues. This is the major leagues. where talent and ability should win ball games, not throwing somebody's butt with speed on second base in extra innings. So now you're going to have a runner on second base. Basically, it's probably going to be a pinch runner, and that pinch runner, there's a good chance to score from second base. You know, any smart manager is going to say, okay, runner on second. You bunt them over to third, and then you have the opportunity, 2 outs to score him from third base. Whether it's a wild pitch, it's just not the way baseball is supposed to be played. And once again, that's just my opinion of the rule. I think you should have to come up and play the game just like we've been for all these years, and you'll have to I don't care if it lasts 23, 24 innings. The game of baseball is not meant to put runners on base before the inning starts. And I just don't like it that we're using this terrible illness, COVID-19, as the excuse for them not to go ahead and allow us to play regular extra innings. Now, it's just my thoughts, okay? It's my opinion. I would love to hear from the fans. Once again, please be interactive. We have a phone hotline number out there. After the interview we do with Eric Handman, which is about 2 minutes away, you can go ahead and call in after that. Please wait till the interview's over. Call in, and we will go ahead and answer your questions. Also, you can leave comments right here in the comment section. No one yet has left a comment. Say hello. Say, hey, Larry. Maybe give me a smile or something. Let me know you're out there. Let me know you're listening. And I do want to remind you, in about 2 minutes, the great Eric Handman, the public address announcer of the University of South Florida Bulls. And, we're going to talk to him about this. I think in the last 2 minutes before Eric comes on, it's about time the damn Tampa fans, and I'm part of those Tampa fans, okay? But we need to start pulling for USF. USF is the college in Tampa Bay. Not these damn Gators, not these damn Seminoles, not these damn Hurricanes, and not these damn Knights. You want to root for those teams, go ahead and move over there. Now, don't get me wrong. I have nothing against those teams. I have nothing against the fans that pull for those teams. But we are in Tampa Bay. We are in Tampa Bay, and it's time we go ahead and root for USF in all sports. One of the big things that happened here over the past couple of months is, and I did not know why it hasn't happened before, but finally my great buddy who did an interview with us a week or so ago, John Momola of WDAE, they got it right. They got USF as their number one team over there. They're doing all the coverage for the USF Bulls. And you know what? It's about damn time. I don't know what took so long. I don't care what took so long. It's happening. USF. 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 That's what we got to start thinking in Tampa Bay. And I'm going to be dedicating my shows. I'm going to commit to USF this year. I'm going to say we're going to cover. Not that we won't cover some of the Gators and Seminoles and things like that. But Tampa Bay, it's time to stand up. It's time to root for the University of South Florida Bulls in all Division I sports. We owe it to them. That is our college. And let's start rooting for them. Let's go ahead. It's about 30 seconds away from getting the great Eric Handman on the phone. Boy, do we have a lot of questions for him. Nice to see Stacy on the line. She's very excited about tonight's interview. Must be a huge, huge USF and Eric Handman fan. So we're happy to have her with us. Let's go ahead and get Eric Handman on the line.
Hello, Larry.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great honor, thrill, and most of all a pleasure to introduce to you the public address announcer of the University of South Florida Bulls football and women's basketball team. Let's have a great, frankly speaking, sports welcome for Eric Handman. Eric, how you doing tonight, buddy?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, Larry. Really appreciate it.
Oh,
Like
I
what
really
you're doing.
appreciate you having on. I was thinking of a great time to have you on, and obviously, football season would have been great, but with everything going on, I said, let's get Eric on, and we can always have him on again later on through the season. But do me a favor, because, we have a lot of listeners here, a lot of USF Bull fans. They're all over the place on here tonight. I love them. They love you to death, Eric. Um, Tell everybody how you got started. I know you've been doing public address announcing for another college for a while, but how did you get hooked up with USF, both football and women's basketball?
Well, actually, back in 2017 in the summer, a friend of mine actually saw a post on Facebook that he sent to my wife, and my wife said, "Hey, they're looking for PA announcers just for basketball, volleyball, and some assorted sports. No mention of football." She said, "You ought to try out for it. You've been doing PA announcing for many years." So I said, "Yeah, why not?" So I went down to the stadium, did a dry audition, and also did an actual live audition with the mic. They loved what they heard, and about a week later, they asked me if I'd become the new voice of women's basketball. Then, at the same time, they said, "Would you be interested in trying out for USF football at Raymond James Stadium?" I said, "Really?" They go, "Really?" I said, "Sure." So I met with the marketing director. I actually did a taped audition, which is a little unusual, sent it in, and a week later was selected as the new voice of the USF Bulls PA announcer.
Well, I know I'm real glad, and I know the fans of USF are real glad as well. Let me ask you this. So from the time football season starts, probably let's say the end of August, beginning of September through March, you don't have much time to yourself, do you?
No, I'm doing what I love. Announcing games is a passion. I'm not the reason that people go to the game. I just add to the experience. So if somebody said to me after a game, "Gee, Eric, you did a great job," then I probably didn't do such a great job because I'm not supposed to be noticed. I'm just in the background enhancing the experience. People go to the game to watch the game.
Right. We are talking to Eric Handman, the public address announcer for the USF Bulls football and women's basketball team. Let me ask you, do you have, you do both football, you do women's basketball. Do you have a preference? I mean, do you like one more than the other?
They're both different. I mean, I do high school football, which are a lot closer to the field in high school football. I do our local team. I've been the announcer pretty much since the inception of the program for 14 years. Football, you're a little bit removed. Remember, we're up in the corner of the stadium, 2 levels up. So it's a little different, but there's a different energy. Basketball, you're right there. The ball, can fall in your lap. The players can come near you. You're hearing what the coaches are saying, what the referees. There's a lot more to the starting lineups. So it's a different experience. I like to say that football is an event and basketball is a game.
Makes sense. So let me ask you this. When you're doing a game, and obviously the last couple of years, and we're hoping this changes around with the new coach and everything, but the men's football team has not fared so well. So how much harder is it to do a game when obviously your team isn't playing as well as you like?
Well, you have to keep in mind, I'm a professional. And when you're a professional, you have a job to do.
Right.
My job is to enhance the in-game experience. So I have a producer, I have responsibilities to sponsors, I have responsibilities to the team, etc. So I'm there to help the entertainment venue. Win or lose, it really, I hate to say this, doesn't really matter for me. Granted, I get excited just as much as anybody else when we're winning, but my job is to enhance the experience.
Now, Eric, let me ask you, because you're a fan, I know you're a sports fan. Do you take the loss difficult like you did if you were coaching or playing?
I do take the loss. It's funny you say that. I do take the loss difficult. The first year I was announcing football, Quentin Flowers was the quarterback.
Right.
Very electric, very exciting, fast-paced offense. It was exhilarating. And then we switch. Flowers leaves. Everything kind of changes. My pacing was different, and it was a different experience.
So I got a question to ask you before we get into football and basketball a little bit with USF. And you are the perfect guy to ask this question to. I know you, now I don't know if they still do, but I know you had sons that played lacrosse at the college level. And my question
I did
to
have
you,
one that was a goalie,
right?
who graduated, and one that is currently playing.
Okay, so perfect. Let me ask you this: as a parent of a student athlete, with everything going on in the world, and them deciding, do you play, do you not play? COVID-19, we don't know what's going to happen in the fall. I mean, are you comfortable, not even just as a student athlete's parent, but as a parent in general, sending your son back to school during this time with the epidemic?
Well, it's funny you should bring that up. Unfortunately, my son goes to Southern New Hampshire University up in Manchester, New Hampshire, and they have decided to not have on-campus classes. All of their classes will be online for the fall semester. If you're not familiar with them, their nickname is SNU, and they are primarily an online school, or at least that's what they're known for, and then they have 4,000 students on campus. So we don't have that decision to make. It's been made for us. However, there are schools around him that are going back in the fall.
So let me ask you, how about if they were on campus? Because USF, which obviously you work for, is obviously going to have to make that decision whether students go back or not go back, because I know a lot of them are talking now about doing virtual school and online classes and that sort. But would you feel comfortable, obviously if they're an athlete, they have to be on campus. You can't play the game virtually. So, I mean, how would you feel?
Well, I would just go along with it. If they said that that's what we need to do, then I'm going to go with it.
Right.
In lacrosse, at least from a playing standpoint, when you're out there, you're all padded up. You have a helmet on.
Right.
So there is some distancing going on, unlike other sports, i.e. soccer, where there's a lot of physical contact without any equipment on. So a little different there, but, a lot of the situation has come up when players are working out with each other or hanging close together, and that's, I think that's the fear that's out there. If you read about it, a lot of football programs that have come back early, some of their players, many of them have tested positive.
Right.
So, and the season hasn't even started yet. Real workouts haven't even started yet. That's just the beginning.
So let me ask you this. New coach now with the USF Bulls. Jeff Scott comes over from a great program with Dabo Swinney at Clemson. I mean, what's the mood like and the expectations now? I mean, obviously, he still has the problem of having a lot of Charlie Strong guys, and no knock on those players. I know they play hard, but it's not his recruiting class. So what's the expectations, with this new coach?
Well, I think it's great expectations. The big thing is he's bringing a new attitude for USF football. From what I've read, basically his mantra is united from start to finish. The guys are going to communicate. They got a common purpose. It's all about family. They appreciate each other, trust, responsibility. They've changed a lot of the staff as well. It's just a different attitude. The other great thing is they have a lot of really good young players. They do have, on each side of the ball, they have some young players, and I'm going to assume that he will bring in some additional players. So, it's all about leadership, and I think he's the right guy at the right time. Because people forget, just a couple of years ago, we had a winning record.
That's right.
They forget. So you change the leadership, you change the attitude. Guess what? Those players change their attitude and start playing better.
And
start exceeding expectations.
yeah, and I was just gonna say that. Sorry to interrupt you there. It's a new culture now. It's a new attitude. A new system. A new coach. It's amazing. I was just gonna ask you that and piggyback off that. That sometimes you could have the same amount of players, and it just takes a change of personnel to get the most out of these players. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, I think at any level when you're coaching, the coach is important in getting the most out of those players. Sometimes in sports, you don't have to have the most talented team to win it all. You have to have the team that plays best together with the proper leadership in place.
We are talking to Eric Handman, the public address announcer of the USFF Bulls football and women's basketball team. So, I'm hearing some rumors down here that, Jordan McLeod is not an automatic shoo-in for the quarterback position, that he had an okay year on a subpar team, but they're saying he might not have done enough to convince, at least yet, Jeff Scott that he should be the starting quarterback.
I haven't really heard anything on that. I will say, from what I've read about him, granted, he's a local product, so I'm very familiar with him, doing high school football, also his brother as well, calling some of his games. And he's actually bulked up a little bit. He's pretty quick. He's bulked up. His biggest problem last year in that offense is the pocket would just collapse on him. He didn't have enough time to throw the ball. And that was the biggest problem. And I don't care who you are. If you don't have time to throw the ball, not much is going to happen.
Yep, absolutely.
If they give him some protection, if they give him more protection this year, I think he's fine. He's a stand-up guy. He's got good size. He's got good skills. He can scramble when he needs to. But again, it all happens in practice. I don't care what sport you're playing. My sons will tell you this. It all happens in practice. It's how you practice. If you practice well, chances are you're going to get on the field. If you don't, probably not.
So, Eric, let me ask you this. USF is in the heart of Tampa. It's on Tampa, Fowler Fletcher Road. I know exactly where it is. And yet, it still seems like Tampa has yet to embrace USF as their Division I school. You still see Gator fans. You still see Seminole fans. You see these people across the way. I think they call them Knights or something. And then you got the Hurricanes. Isn't it about time Tampa Bay says, this is our team, the hell with everybody else, we're USF Bull fans?
Yeah, part of it, too, is they don't have an on-campus stadium like UCF does. And that really, I think, makes a huge difference. We play in a professional stadium that seats 65,000 people. So, it's kind of cavernous when you're only filling the second rim of that stadium. Whereas if they were on a college campus, they could possibly fill the whole stadium, say 35,000 fans like UCF does.
And why? And number one, why don't they? And is there any talk? I thought I heard talk about them coming up with enough funds to go ahead and build a stadium on campus.
There has been talk, nothing finalized. I know that they've had some big donors, and they're building a football practice facility, which is a big deal. Practice facilities for Division I football are very, very important because it helps get recruits there. And eventually a stadium, I'm sure, down the road will come. But I think that's the big difference. You also have what people don't recognize is a very large international base of students at USF. So you have that as well from people from all over the world. It's a little bit more than some schools.
Well, and I'll tell you what, once again, we are talking to Eric Handman, the public address announcer of the USF Bulls football and women's basketball team. A big thing happened last year, and a lot of people don't realize it, and I realize how important, and I'm sure you're going to realize how important this is too, but finally, our home, the Tampa Bay area sports radio, the great WDAE, and my buddy John Mamola, who works over there, they finally reached an agreement with USF to be their station for USF Sports. How big is that for USF and the city of Tampa?
Well, I mean, WDAE is the premier sports station in the greater Tampa Bay area. So I would say that's pretty huge.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously they're going to cover football, basketball. I mean, it's great because, why the heck they were covering the Gators before just didn't make sense when we had our own university there. Let's switch over to basketball a minute. I mean, as a basketball fan, a women's basketball fan as well, it's got to really suck to have UConn in your division, doesn't it?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I don't know if you realize, but I believe this past season was the last season in the American Athletic Conference for UConn. They switched to the Big East.
Oh, I did not know that. No.
Yes. They're going to be switching to the Big East. So that just changes everything for USF basketball. Because we're a consistent winning program. Our coach is going into his 21st season. More than half of our team is international players. It's a consistent, gritty, great program, fun to watch. And, with UConn obviously always in the top 5, moving out, it changes everything in the conference, and I think gives USF a great chance to actually win the conference.
Yeah, and that was once again I was going right into that because you look at this team from last year before the season was suspended right during the conference tournament, I believe, but USF was 19-16 overall. They were 7-9 in a conference where you had Cincinnati, Houston, UConn, some real good women's basketball teams. But the amazing thing that caught my eye is this team was unbelievable at home. When they played at home, they were 11-5. They played some real good basketball at home.
Yes, they did. I mean, early in the season, they beat Texas. One of their star freshmen went down with an injury, Maria Alvarez. She was a 5'7" sharpshooter. She could drain the three. The Eliza Pinzan really stepped up as a point guard in her sophomore campaign. They had Betty Manunga down low, shooting and rebounding. So they had a lot of young players on that team, Christina Brabankova, that really stepped up. And I really believe this coming season, they're going to be right back in form. You're going to see a larger winning record and bigger wins. One thing people forget, I think it was Baylor. They went down to Waco, played at the time, I think Baylor was either number 1 or number 2 in the country. They played them tough all the way into the second half before they gave way. So they're a gritty team, and again, it all comes down to coaching. And Coach Fernandez, his players are ready to play. If they don't, they're going to sit.
Yeah, and he's had some great teams there. I mean, he can very consistent, and you gotta definitely, I know I'm looking forward. I mean, I look forward to all sports, but definitely looking forward to women's basketball. Now, let me ask you this: was the season for USF was over, or were they actually playing in the turn? I'm talking about the conference tournament when the season stopped.
They actually had lost in the conference tournament when the season stopped.
Okay,
so in other words, I announced the last game at home. I think it was February 29th. They went in the following week to the tournament. They lost in the tournament, and then they were just waiting. I would have believed they probably would have gotten a WNIT bid, and I was just waiting to see if it was going to be a home bid. Because last year I did a home playoff game. Of course, a playoff game is a different atmosphere. So I was hoping for the same this year, and then they shut it down.
Yeah, that was unfortunate to everyone that was involved, obviously. Before I let you go, Eric, let me ask you this. Because we got a couple of fans asking, let me see there. I got a couple of more questions. Craig, all the way, actually from Tampa, Florida, wants me to ask you, what is your opinion that the women basketball need to do to get deep into the tournament next year?
Well, I think the first thing was UConn changing
Yes.
because they always seem to meet them in the championship game, and they lose to them in the championship game. So I think that right there is going to help. And as I said, it was a young team this past season, and the big key is staying healthy. People forget 2 years ago, one of their players, she went down with a serious injury. She actually was the number 11 pick in the recent professional draft, and she went down with a serious knee injury. So you lose your top scorer, of course things change, and that's what's been happening. People have been going down with injuries regularly. So if they can stay healthy, they have a good nucleus. They have 4 new players coming in, most of them international as well. So I think they'll build upon that. You're going to see a much better team. They love to run the court, fast-paced, and a ferocious defense.
All right, one more question we're going to get to for you before we let you run here, Eric, from the fans, actually. Well, I think that one we might be able to answer. It's a 2-part question to end it. Number 1, will college football have fans at Raymond James Stadium? This is the first part. And they want to know what your early season prediction is for USF. I guess that's a fair question to end it.
I'm hoping there is a season. I know that there won't be a band at the game because they're not playing. That much I did hear because that was a conference decision. I heard that yesterday. I have not heard anything as far as will there be fans at Ray J. So your guess is as good as mine. Things seem to be evolving every day.
Right, and obviously for you, it's important that there are fans there.
What's that?
And I said, obviously for you, it's very important that they do allow fans. That way you can obviously call the games.
Yeah, if there's no fans, I won't be there.
Right, obviously, yeah. And then what's your prediction for this team, Eric?
I think this year, with the new energy, new attitude, granted, Jeff Scott's not going to have his players in there, but I think these guys are going to buy into it. So assuming we move forward, I think that they are going to have a winning record, and I do think that they will go to a bowl game.
Which means what? If it's still the same thing, that means minimum 6 wins, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. I do think that they will easily get to 6 or 7. I mean, if you look at the schedule, it's tough. I mean,
yeah.
The American Conference is a tough conference. They start out going away to Texas to play, and Texas will be nationally ranked. So it's a tough start to do a away game in your first game. But pretty much they got to win in their conference. If they're able to do that, they should be able to finish with a winning record. And I do predict that they will go to some bowl game. And, it's all about progress, baby steps.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I'm looking forward to see this team definitely this year with, it's going to be a new style of everything. Coaching change, a great coach we have, coming over from Clemson. I think the fans are going to be real excited with this new head coach. Eric, I want to thank you so very much for joining us tonight on Frankly Speaking Sports. When the season gets started and they start playing some games, both in football and women's basketball, we love to have you on more consistently, where maybe even once a week we could talk about the previous week and the upcoming weeks.
Love to do that, Larry. Thank you so much for having me. Great show. Keep up the great work. Have a great night.
Thank you, my friend. Be safe.
All right, thank you.
That was the great public address announcer of the USF Bowls. That was Eric Handman. He announces for football and women's basketball. What a great guy. I mean, great guy. USF, I'm telling you what, in all sports, it's time for the Tampa Bay fans, the ones that listen to my show. I'm not going to be mad at you. If you pull for the Gators, if you pull for, the Seminoles, and you pull for these, the the Tights over in Orlando. I'm sorry, the Knights in Orlando. But I got to tell you something. It's time we take care of this team. This team is our home team. Let's pull for them. Let's continue to root for these guys. It's going to be a special year with Scott as the new coach. Want to remind you all, we do have a phone line open for the last 20 minutes of the show. All I ask is that if one person calls, wait till they hang up, then the next person call. The number is 479-553-7008. Once again, 479-553-7008. Want to also let you know you can leave a message like Stacy and Craig and a couple of the other fans from Tampa have left. And we'll go ahead and read those to you as well. Thank you, Craig, saying nice interview. Until we get some phone calls, if we get some phone calls, do have a couple of Tampa Bay Buccaneers things definitely I would like to talk about. We'll get to those right now. I wrote some notes down. Obviously everybody's concerned. I don't think it's as big as a concern. I think Shaq Barrett is teasing the fan base here right now in Tampa Bay about whether he's going to sign this franchise tender or not. I expect that to be done by tomorrow. So for all you fans wondering, he had his best year with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 19 and a half sacks last year. Yes, there's money, but he's going to make a pretty penny by signing that tender as well. So I don't see him leaving the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, especially now that you've got this unbelievable offense with Brady and Gronkowski and Tyler Johnson and Deshaun Vaughn, just to add to Godwin and Evans. I don't see him going nowhere. That defense needs him, definitely needs him. Pierre-Paul needs him. Remember, Pierre-Paul had 8.5 sacks in limited time. He didn't play every game because of that neck injury, remember, at the beginning of the season, and still ended up with 8.5 sacks. So, this team is going to be very good. Thought it was very interesting how, there was a deal made between Tom Brady and Chris Godwin. A lot of people didn't know that, for the uniform number 12. Brady gives Godwin a Super Bowl ring or a Super Bowl championship for number 12. And Godwin said, okay. It's important, guys. I don't think you realize how important it is to these guys to win a championship. They play their entire career to win that big game. And, Tom has been a little selfish winning all these Super Bowls the past 20 years. It's time he shares the wealth with the Tampa Bay area. And I think, Godwin just did a great deed for somebody he has just so much respect for. Now, the NFL did come down today and said camps will open as planned on July 28th. Now, a selected number of players and rookies can attend before July 28th. But like I said, the NFL is doing everything as planned except the Hall of Fame this year, of course. That will be canceled. That did come down. The Hall of Fame game and the Hall of Fame presentation for 2020 will be done in 2021. But camps are going to open up July 28th. All camps are opening up. And, we had a guest yesterday ask us, my good friend Brian from Crew Life, asked me a question last night, and I guess I didn't see a lot of it. I mean, the update, we talked about a certain percentage of fans being allowed in the stadium, but he asked about advertising, and today, unanimously, the NFL owners have agreed to use the lowest stands for advertising. Sure they did. And, let's think about it logically. Owners, sometimes they're in it for themselves. And I'm not saying we don't have great owners like the Jeff Fennicks out there, the Glazer family, and so on and so on. But, they make more money putting advertisements on that lower level than actually only putting a percentage of fans in those lower seats. Those are the highest priced seats. For every seat they give up in the lower level, it's a lot of money. It's huge money. and they can go ahead, and I just hope they don't start raising those prices on the second tier and the third tier at Raymond James Stadium. I don't think that would be a good sign to do. But to go ahead and advertise on the lower level, it's not a bad idea. It really is. Now, they are saying, well, we don't want the players being too close. And some football fields, yes. I know the end zones, Cam Newton was known to jumping in the stands, and as other players were, whenever they went ahead and scored a touchdown. They have to eliminate that stuff, and I think it's just a better way for them to ensure it doesn't happen if they go ahead and they, alleviate anyone from sitting there altogether. So the NFL, once again, has approved. Once again, they have approved to put advertisements on the lower levels, and that's of all stadiums. So the lower levels of all stadiums are now going to be cut off for the 2020 season. What does that tell you? They're going to allow fans in the other part of that stands. And we talked about this as well. For those of you that didn't catch our show on Crew Life yesterday, they are going to allow, it's going to be up to the local authorities to decide how many fans at each NFL home stadium will be allowed. So you could have a certain percentage allowed in Tampa and a completely different percentage up in New England, in Foxborough. It's all based on what the local authorities say about the spread of the coronavirus. Obviously Florida right now is a real hot spot for COVID-19. And I said this yesterday, not that I want anybody ever to catch COVID-19, but, let's hope that this upward spike is happening now, and that'll hopefully prevent, and I say hopefully, I'm not an expert, but let's say it'll come down by fall, and we'll be on the downside, and it doesn't spike up again, in the fall. So we can only hope and pray that, things in Florida calm down a little bit with the COVID-19. I know they mandated masks being worn after 5 o'clock at all times, or you get a hefty fine for not wearing it. So I did want to go ahead and, mention that. I also want to mention to you, for those of you that love Tampa Bay Rays baseball, oh my goodness gosh, what a show we have for you tomorrow night. Not only is baseball coming back, we get the privilege of having the great pregame and postgame host. He works with Orestes Destrades. Rich Hollenberg will be joining us tomorrow night. Yeah, that's right. Rich Hollenberg, right here on Frankly Speaking Sports. He's going to be joining us, and boy, do we have a lot of questions for him. My goodness gracious, baseball's back. He's back to work. Our buddy Dwayne Stats is back to work. I am so happy for all those guys, and I'm happy that baseball is back. So, just a great, great show. So far, we're not going to announce next week's lineup, but I will let you all know this Tuesday night, we keep the theme of baseball. The great grandson of Harry Carey, son of Skip Carey. We get Chip Carey Tuesday night. He does play-by-play broadcasting for the Atlanta Braves. He's worked for Fox. He's just an unbelievable broadcaster in all different types of sports. So we get the honor of having Chip Carey this Tuesday night. Now, I do want to remind you all, my good buddy Marvin Bell does a show on Crew Life on Sunday night. You don't have to worry. Frankly Speaking Sports ain't on. And we'll ask our buddy Rob Thompson from Crew Life to go ahead and put it on our website as well so that you can watch it. He does Bucks Talk with Coach Bell. That's Sunday night, 7 p.m. Coach Bell. What a great, 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 great show Coach Bell does on Sunday night. It's unbelievable. I watched the show. It is that good. If you want to know everything about the Buccaneers, what's going on, his thoughts, his breaking down of different things, You gotta watch Coach Bell Sunday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We got about another 8 minutes left in the show. If you're listening, you want to call in, go ahead and call the Frankly Speaking Sports Hotline at 479-553-7008. Leave a message down low like quite a bit of you have done. If you want me to answer any questions, whether it's about the Rays, the Bulls, the Lightning, speaking of the Lightning, that's a good topic. We haven't heard much. You're not hearing a lot from the NHL. I know they went ahead and continued their phase now. The Tampa Bay Lightning has reopened their facilities. I think that was either yesterday or today where the Tampa Bay Lightnings did open up their facilities. So, haven't heard concrete when hockey's starting back up. We know the NBA is starting back up. They already got they came out today. I didn't post it yet on Frankly Speaking Sports, but they actually have the dates each team is going to arrive in Orlando beginning the second week of July. So, once we get hold of that, we'll go ahead and we'll put that right back on Frankly Speaking Sports for you. Then we got baseball, and then college football starts. So, what has been a very long wait period because of COVID-19, from a sports fan's perspective, there is light at the end of the tunnel for sports. We're basically, 4 weeks away from baseball and basketball both starting. And, I'll tell you what, it is going to be fun to see basketball. It's going to be tough on these guys. Some of these teams that didn't play as well this year that aren't going back to Orlando, they may have a little advantage come next season because the winning team in the NBA roughly has, I think it's 3 or 4 weeks off before they have to report back for the 2021 season. So these NBA players are going to be playing a long time, without a lot of time off, come next year in the NBA. So we'll see what happens. We talked earlier about baseball. We talked about all the new rules. We talked about how I don't like extra innings. I'd love to get some opinions on our phone hotline. If you want to give us a quick call, tell us your opinion of the DH. DH will be used just this year. Even though the players voted it down, it will be played for the 2020 season. Then remember, extra innings now starts with a runner on second base. It could either will be the last batter of the previous inning, or the manager has the right to put in a pinch runner. Obviously, if you put in the pinch runner, it counts as that player being used in that game. So those are some of the new rules in Major League Baseball. As far as college football goes, great conversation tonight. I definitely want to thank Eric Handman for joining us. A lot of these colleges, you're finding out, and I know a lot of people are getting scared right now because they're finding out the University of Texas has this many people that that has COVID-19. University of Houston, you have some Clemson players, a bunch just got it. Remember, these players are being tested. A lot of them are asymptomatic, which basically means they have no idea that they are carrying this COVID-19 illness. Until they get tested, they don't know. They get tested, they find out, they'll be quarantined, and hopefully this will be the only time they have this virus. But as you see more teams getting tested, and don't be surprised, Major League Baseball is testing next week. The NBA is testing the week after. You're going to see a lot of these, not a lot, but you're going to see some of these players, and some may very, very well be high-profile players that have contracted COVID-19. The good news is they can get it under control, quarantine them. They will be ready by the beginning of the season, and they won't go ahead and spread it to anyone else. So just expect that. I don't want any of the fans out there and my listeners to be surprised and start saying next week, wow, so many players are getting the COVID-19. No, so many more players are being tested, and now you got results from their test that is telling us what we did not know, that they had COVID-19. So, let's hope that's not the case. Let's hope a lot of these players don't have it. But in the event they do, thank goodness that they're going to be tested and that they'll be able to take as best care of themselves as possible. First, to heal themselves, and then second, not to spread it. Other than that, I think that's most of our news today. I'm going to check ahead and make sure if there was any questions that I missed. A fan very, very happy. I got a great message today on YouTube. I'm going to see if I can learn how to copy it. I want to send it to my buddy Veda Pinson III. It was somebody that listened on YouTube too, and we did this interview, me and Veda. We did this, over a month ago. It might have been 2 months ago when the epidemic first came out, talking about his great father, the great baseball player for the Cincinnati Reds and the St. Louis Cardinals, and whether he should be in the Hall of Fame or not, which I believe he should. One of the greatest outfielders to play in the 60s for the Cincinnati Reds. And an unbelievable, just somebody that was a huge fan of Veda Pinson back in the 60s wrote us an unbelievable thanking us up and down for the great interview we did with Veda Pinson's son. And it was really nice to see that people, do go ahead and see things like that. Whoa, let's not lose you. I'm still here. So I'm just checking our messages here. Okay, another message. Nice interview. Seemed like everybody loved the Eric Handman interview. And we'll get Eric on. First of all, I want to thank him once again for being on tonight. We'll get more of Eric on later on in the year when USF starts playing. And, we can actually talk about some game footage and stuff like that, what he saw from his perspective. So we'll definitely have him back on. Once again, I want to remind you all, tomorrow night, Tampa Bay Rays, pregame and postgame host. He does some play-by-play broadcasting for them as well. The great Rich Hollenberg will be on tomorrow night with us right here on Frankly Speaking Sports. Want to thank you all for joining us tonight. We'll see you tomorrow on Frankly Speaking Sports.